Good afternoon and welcome to IFC webinars. And today we're here with Vector Solutions, preparing your crew for 2023 and beyond with Vector Solutions. Thank you for joining us for this great opportunity. My name is Richard Miller and I'm your IFC host today for the event and will be monitoring the Q&A. Before we begin, audio is being broadcast using your voice over internet protocol technology through your computer speakers or headset. Please make sure that your speakers or headset are turned on and the volume is turned up. Audience microphones have been muted during the presentation. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please contact IFC support via the chat function, which we'll be monitoring, or you can directly email webinars@ifc.org and we'll try to respond as quickly as possible. The chat and the Q&A and the handouts are available at the top of your screen. On the right, you'll see the chat and then Q&A. You can drop in any of those, and we strongly suggest that you introduce yourself in the chat so everybody else can see who's here today. Basically, you can drop your questions in on the Q&A, and we'll be glad to answer those as we go through. Our facilitators will do their best to get to everyone's questions during the presentation. And if we missed any, we will definitely go back and pick those up throughout. On the handouts tab, you'll be able to upload the handouts that are available as PDFs. Thanks to our sponsors today, Vector Solution. This is an ongoing series that Vector has worked with us on to present valued information to our members and others, and we're grateful for their ongoing support. And again, my name is Richard Miller. I'm an IFC staff member, retired fire captain from Fairfax, Virginia, and I'll be assisting moderating our event today. Our two presenters, Matt Schwartz, solutions engineer with Vector Solutions, and Robbie King, solutions engineer with Vector also. Both have fire service experience and are great assets to us for these type of events. And I think you'll be very rewarded at the end as we go through all of the event. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over now to Robbie to introduce and kick us off. Robbie, it's all yours.
No, I appreciate it, Richard. And I love the fact that Matt and I are members as well of the IFC. It's a fantastic partnership, and we're truly find it a privilege and an honor to be here with you all today, especially talking about a topic like preparing your crew for the year and beyond with Vector Solutions. We have a bunch of items to talk about with everybody today. We do want to hear from you. So like Richard was saying earlier, drop those questions in so we can really pick on Matt today. And it's great to see everybody that's on. Before we begin, though, talking about the topic, I want to remind everybody what Vector Solutions is all about. And it is a technology to train, prepare, and retain your crew. We can see there on the slide all the different items we need to have to prepare our people, to train our people to be ready for that event. So we want to make sure that you're using Vector Solutions, take care of your policies, have the courses, make you audit ready for an evaluation, track all of your training in one stop, and use a mobile tool when you're out there doing this hands-on training, followed back by making sure that the people have equipment that is ready to perform, tools that are ready to perform. And then when you get done taking care of that call, we want to make sure that they're lifelong members with you, that we're able to track and take care for early intervention side of things. Make sure we're having accelerated performance management slipped in there as well, and take care of the exposure tracking, all while keeping transparent personnel files when it's applicable. And that's some of the things that I love about Vector Solutions is it's just not a one-stop. We hit multiple areas to make sure that your people are prepared and ready. We'll have it up at the end though, but if you need to reach out to us, get a hold of us at vectorsolutions.com. Matt, I think it's the easiest way to get a hold of us is going to the website. Then from there, you can fill out a request or give us a phone call. those kinds of things. But so Matt, I'm really excited about today. First, it's my first webinar with you of the year. That's always exciting. But here we get to talk about really many areas that Vector Solutions can help out. So I got a few questions for you. I put them down on the slide here for us. I want to talk about considerations for laying out your 2023 training plan. Looking at the attendees that are on here, we have some great people. So I'd love for you, as we're talking today, drop in those chats and let us know how you were handling your 23 plan. But we want to come back, talk about identifying how your agency is meeting compliance before managing your facility-based training. Skill sheets. I love hands-on training. I want to hear what some of those expectations are, and then cover effectively staffing your department for operational readiness periods. Are you ready to go, Matt? Because I got a few stuff for you.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Excited for this topic today.
Man, very much. And, you know, for me, as I was thinking about this, the end of the year was such an important part to get ready for 23. And we hit the ground running in 23 to get ahead of that training curve, like I've always said before. But I was wondering to see if you could talk to us a little bit about how you built your training plan out.
Yeah, definitely. So when we think about that training plan, there's so much that you have to keep in the back of your mind. And one of the things that I was able to utilize coming from Illinois, we had some benefits because we had some real key players throughout the state that developed resources they shared, but they built it out into a multi-year plan. And that's now transitioned into some of the recertification stuff that the state fire marshals rolled out. But when we look at that plan and you see this laundry list of things we have to accomplish, what was important is to not forget all of the columns that we had to check the box on, right? So we didn't want to just focus on our ISO training. We didn't want to just focus on our OSHA compliancy. We had to think about things internally, right? We had to take care of department policies. What did we have within our organization that we still had to do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis? And how can some of those boxes that we're checking and some of those tasks we're completing, how can they play a role not only into that ISO training, not into that OSHA training, but also, hey, you know what, you're going through professional development, we need to check those boxes off as well. You got recertification coming up over on the right-hand side there. Great. We just went out and did that 1001 drill, and it's also a count towards part of your recertification in these different certifications. And then obviously we can't forget about what the majority of our business is, and that's EMS, and being able to take all of these areas, these 4 different categories, and drive them all into one training plan. Hey, you know what? We have to do 2 CPR training, but how can we leverage that into another level? So can we perform and do our CPR recertification, but incorporate CPR into a RIT or a Mayday drill? Hey, what happens when we got to perform CPR on a firefighter? And being able to be creative in that mindset when you're developing and building this plan out, don't just stay in one swim lane, but be creative, because we know when you look through this, how many different drill types, activities, objectives we have to cover. How can we streamline our approach to accomplish all of this in 365 days? It's a challenge, right?
Nelson, you're on mute. Very much. And I loved how you brought up the fact that it's just not one singular focus. It's just not for ISO. So many times teams get stuck on this is just all I have to worry about, when really we are a multifaceted or an all hazards agency of doing those things. So when you're working on this, Matt, is are you working with a group of people trying to make sure all of those are done, or are you just are you keeping good notes and you just know what's getting done?
So, that really brings up a great topic, Robbie, because when you think about this, we live in a team approached industry, right? We have to, in order to be successful, you have to rely on your neighbors. You have to work together as a team. We work together in a company as a team, and transitioning that into an entire perspective from training, but being able to leverage. Hey, you know what? You're my next door neighbor over there. What are you doing in your training program that we can? And that's where we've seen consortiums really spiral up. We've seen enterprises that, like I said, in Illinois, we use Mavis divisions, and taking, those divisions and working together jointly to share information and resources. So we're not constantly reinventing the wheel out there. Being able to share that transparency brings up the community resources. Hey, I'm looking for a particular drill. Don't necessarily always just rely on having to go back to the drawing board and create that stuff. Look and see what's out there, because there's some amazing content material that our brothers and sisters across the country, from the East Coast to the West Coast, North to South, have developed and want to share, but being able to leverage. Keeping in the back of your mind, you still have to make it and craft it to be your own, and it still has to accommodate your department. As much as we work and share information and share concepts and ideas and trends that are out there, sometimes we know that things aren't what might work for you, and Robbie's fire department may not work for mine. But how can I take what you're doing and tweak it just a little bit to make it successful within our organization? Maybe you have a different task book you're trying to accomplish. So your professional development, it's way up here, but mine, I'm not there yet. And so I can take some of what you've done and build that and take that as a almost a pyramid approach, and get the ground running and start to build and be successful from the ground up.
And I love it. I love it. What else you got here? I love seeing this.
So just, as we said before, Robbie, so many different ideas, ways of being able to leverage that plan, but being able to, for me, I had to see it, and this was the clean version, being able to take the scratch paper and the dry erase board and having lines drawn and crossing things out, but being able to put it into a spreadsheet, put it into a computer document that you can manipulate and move around, making sure you're meeting all your objectives, making sure you're meeting the NFPA standards. If you have recertification requirements for your particular state, those are being met. And how are you documenting and tracking and measuring the success of those? And as we get through later on and talking, really, the most important topic is that successful piece. Not just that we're checking the box and we're delivering the training, but how successful is the outcome of that training? When the bell rings, our troops respond. Are they responding in the tip-top shape? Are they giving 110% in as their skill performance really to the level we need it to be at? Or should we have done more training with it? And so some useful tips, tricks, and opportunities out there to really take that training program to the next level, making sure we're delivering not only the content, but we're also measuring the skill retention and performance of those people as well. Being able to put all of that right here into this view. And as we talked, and that last slide really brings and blends into these considerations. So what are my requirements for my driver's training? Who drives in my organization? And the example of ISO, hey, I'm an officer. They don't require me to document those, and those hours can bleed over into other categories. But internally, how does that look for us? Because in the risk and liability perspective, if I'm a company officer and I have to get behind the wheel of that fire apparatus and drive it back to the fire station, and somebody pulls out in front of me, there's still gonna be risk and liability. Was I still properly trained as a lieutenant, a captain, whoever, an organization? Even though, and that's where, like I said, we don't want to stay focused in one swim lane there. We want to be able to be creative in that mindset. Hey, yes, my normal job performance isn't to drive that fire apparatus, but what happens when I do have to? What happens if I pick up that overtime shift and I'm able to act out of rank down and drive that engine for the day? I still have to make sure that I have been properly trained to the department standards for that. And being able to build all of that right here into that spreadsheet, it's a tiered approach, Robbie. There's no doubt about it. And, one of the biggest challenges is, we know as training officers, you have all of this information right here in front of us. How do we transpose it out so that our company officers, our shift supervisors, they all understand what your expectations are from the training division as you're building these items out there? How are you being transparent within your own organization to make sure that everybody has all of the information that they need?
That's awesome. I love being able to see everything in one spot, but also making sure that it's all interactive. I think it's an important part of that training program.
Yeah. So, the old adage, tell me and I forget it, teach me and I may remember, and involve me and I learn it. And this wheel just, it shows it all, because being able to, we know that nobody wants that death by PowerPoint, right? They want interaction. They want to have a group discussion at the kitchen table. They want to sit on the apparatus floor and have that discussion about being successful and reading buildings and understanding what we're doing in our line of work. But back to the basics, and we're going to talk later on more about back to the basics, but being able to circumvent that back and delivering that course, that online virtual learning, that your firefighters, your company officers, whether we're trying to do a 1021 refresh and review some course material in the 1021 officer series, or we're looking at, our basic firefighter skills, doesn't matter. What's important is being able to deliver that information. They can sit down, at a specified drill time. Maybe they pull it up on their mobile device and log into Target Solutions, and being able to review that, back to the basics, making sure all those minimum standards are covered. Then having that custom activity, putting all of that teaching mentality. Let's show you. We know we're not successful in the fire service if you're, the stand back in the back of the room and point and say, do this. The best leaders out there are the ones that are putting their gear on, getting on the apparatus floor, and still showing and teaching the drill and demonstrating what needs to be done, not just telling. And then lastly is that involve me. Hey, we've shown you how to do this. We're going to walk through it. We're going to do these skills, but being able to incorporate evaluations process into there, being able to say, hey, you know what? I know this is your first time of doing this particular skill. Maybe we showed you a new way to force that door. You haven't done it before. You're struggling the first or second time. Let's keep doing it until we perfect this, because that's how we become successful and how everybody goes home at the end of the day.
I'm with you 100%. In the repetition that they get to see it, so I love that end of it. And that the training is validated when they complete that hands-on training on there. That to me just drives it all home. I see you're showing your home screen. What do you want to cover here?
So, when we talk about that transparency and making sure that everybody has the ability to have the right information at the right time. So you come in, the last thing any firefighter, company officer, battalion chief wants to do is to go searching through their organization, being able to come in, log in here and see some focal points. Hey, you know what? What's on the drill schedule today, and how to incorporate some cool resources right here in your training management system to leverage what that training is. So as an example here, you see that we have assigned out, we know we're going to go to the training tower and do some live fire evolutions. Well, let's make sure we check that box for compliancy. We need to make sure that we're covering that basic content. So let's assign that 1001 fire behavior course out and have a due date before we go do that live skill evaluation. And we actually put the lines on the ground and put our gear on and climb into a live fire evolution. let's make sure we covered the basics. So being able to deliver that out, recording that training, making sure that we're meeting our 1401 standards, checking all those about the who, what, when, where, and why. What did we train on, those objectives? When was it done? And then lastly, you know what? Today we're going to the training tower. We're going to do that live fire evolution. Being able to bring up that calendar within Vector Solutions and seeing, you know what? Here's our entire training schedule. Scratch the spreadsheets. You know, the old days of the spreadsheets or the whiteboard where you're trying to transpose all that information out there. Being able to build it right into one location and using this particular platform. In this case, you know what? Hey, I need to pull up that training drill. Guess what? We got to record those training hours that we completed that live fire evolution. You'll see here that right on the right-hand side of that box, it's all right there. All I got to do is click that live link. It takes me directly to that record completion. And for the company officers, the battalion chief, whoever in your organization is documenting that training, it's all right there at their fingertips. They don't have to go searching around for anything. It's all about back to being transparent and giving them the tools in the toolbox to streamline their approach for the day so they can be successful and focus on what's most important, their troops and responding to calls. But
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
You're just making my heart warm. So I loved having everything on the calendar, and it allowed me to see, am I ready for training next month? You know, we look at this whole training plan and we get it broken down to the quarters, down to the month. With a month, oh, I can handle this month. You know, assigning those courses like you were showing, getting the hands-on training that you got going on and documenting it. It then in turn allowed me to make it repeatable. So next year I was just fine-tuning it a little bit, adding those things on there, but it also allows those company officers to see what's going to be coming up so they can get more involved as well. So I apologize for interrupting. I just got, this is the kind of nuts and bolts stuff that I love hearing you talk about.
Don't ever apologize. You know, this is, it goes into that, again, I always bring up transparency, right? But, you know, we're delivering that information out. So we have that calendar event. Let's tell our folks what they need to be training on, what's on the schedule for them. But more importantly, they need that guidance and direction. So maybe you don't want to completely do away with your pen and paper JPRs. Great. Use the file center and upload them into a digital filing cabinet. Being able to grab them and attach them into this custom activity here. Having those objectives laid out. The custom activities are, again, meeting that who, what, when, where, and why. What are we training on? Let's document it. And at the end of the day, it goes back to that risk and liability. Somebody gets hurt, something happens. The last thing we ever want to experience in a fire service, but we know that we live in a dangerous profession and it's there. And being able to make sure that as we're training, as we're meeting those standards, that, you know, it's several check boxes. We need to make sure that that content's delivered. We need to make sure that we're tracking our training hours, that we're tracking what objectives we're training on, and being able to incorporate all of that into one location. So here's an example. We're just putting that into a custom activity. Again, you want to have those additional resources out of your file center. All you do is add it into that, and now the instructor, the company officer, whoever is going to review that material and content, whether it's a video, PowerPoint file, doesn't matter. It's right there for them. And then being able to tie that directly into a credential. I love the topic of credentials though, Robbie, because you know how easy is it to be able to say, hey, I have this professional development, I have this recertification, or a department standard we're trying to meet. We know that we go out and we throw hose on the ground and we're doing hose line advancement or ground ladders, whatever it is. Well, you know what? That drill counts for ISO. That drill counts for our annual training requirements within our department. It also counts for maybe our recertification at a state level. But do I need to go in there and record these multiple times? No, you don't. We just attach those custom activities to those individual credentials and being able to record one time, and it's all tracked right there. Now, if you need to go in and run a report, it's at your fingertips, and it's allows for that usability and streamlined approach.
Very much. And I love that, just to re-highlight one thing that you said that was really important to me. I loved the ability to using the credentials allowed to make sure I was counting it where it was applicable. I wasn't triple dipping or double dipping on those hours, but just making sure, hey, if we did vehicle extrication, well, guess what? That counts towards my ISO. It counted towards my my EMS research. It allowed me to really dial things in to making sure that I was maximizing all of those hours. I loved how you brought that up.
No, hands down. And to me, that was most important, being able to take everything and just bring it all together. You know, and we talked about those credentials though. You know, here being able to be focused on what's really most important is we gotta grab all of this and we gotta put these into their own individual categories. So whether, doesn't matter what credential we're talking about, but what happens on the back end of it? What happens when somebody doesn't meet those requirements? What happens when, you know, something gets, you know, forgotten or left behind? And that's where really having the alerts process tied to a credential takes it to that extra mile. Being able to say, I can have multiple different alerts, you know, hey, when it's 30 days out, 14 days in this example, 7 days out, or when it expires, and who needs to be notified. I always love the Robbie King example. And you know, when you didn't meet your standard, and you know what, you're expired, but just come see Chief King and you know, turn your stuff in because you didn't meet your requirements. And it's one of my favorite examples, but it just takes it and brings that all together. The last thing we want to do is have this training program put together from your Excel spreadsheet or however you're initially creating that into your vector training management system, into credentials and custom activities, and then all of a sudden the bottom falls out and, well, nobody was notified that they didn't meet their requirements. No, that alerts process is going to make sure that they actually meet their requirements and keep that transparent information. Maybe that needs to go to admins or just their company officers, and being able to build that out for your organization however you want it and whoever you want notified.
I love it. You know, we talked about an awful lot of stuff, but having the ability to leverage the online training system to manage all of your forms of training to meet those requirements, whether it's instructor-led, one of our courses, hands-on training, I took a NIMS class, whatever those things may be, being able to keep it in one place so you can truly quantify all the work that you've been doing is a true value of having Vector Solutions at your fingertips. I just want to pose a question. I want to ask a question to the group out there. What has been your hardest part when you're creating your 23 training plan? What was your hardest item? If you could just throw that out there in the general chat. You know, for me, when I first got started, Matt, it was trying to come up with the topics. It was like, you know, I want something new. Well, it's still pulling hose. It's catching a hydrant. It's still left hand or right hand or off the hose line kind of search and those kinds of things. So I just wanted to see if anybody else wanted to pop in there and say what were one of their items are. But I don't want to put too much lag in here. I wanted to see if you could talk a little bit more, Matt, about identifying how your agency is meeting those compliance, focusing in on the facility-based training, because that one for me was a big part of trying to meet that facilities training in there. And I'm with their chief, getting the buy-in. And that's a really good one in there. We were just talking about that yesterday, Matt. That's funny. But I'll let you start talking about the facilities training.
Definitely. So, it goes back to, as I said earlier, back to the basics. And I'll just add, as we come into the back to the basics topic, for the buy-in part of it, is being creative, right? Even if it's just tweaking and turning that wrench just a little bit, and changing a couple things, it allows you to keep that creative mindset within your organization. The last thing we want to do is put the same repetitive drill out there every single time, every single year, because eventually they're going to know what to expect, and really keeping them on their toes and keeping them engaged, and involving them. A lot of times with that buy-in also, Robbie, is being able to leverage some value, survey what they want to train on. We know what we have to train on. We know that we have certain requirements that we need to meet. But being open-minded and putting that survey out, and seeing if there's something maybe we're missing. Again, it goes back to that team approach and keeping that open mindset. Whether you're in a larger department that's a really busy organization, or you're in a little bit slower organization, having that employee buy-in, and knowing that their opinions, their thought process is valued to the training program, can help it be more successful. So when we talk about that ensuring compliance, nobody wants the back to the basics. Nobody wants to, circle back to, the not so fun stuff, right? But in reality, that's what's most important, because sometimes those back to the basics are what gets us in the most trouble out there. And being able to capture and grab, like I said, being able to put that online course. Hey, we don't want to bore you with that PowerPoint, but we know, especially depending on your environment, what part of the country you're in, there's times of the year where we're tied to classroom learning, and that's the only thing we can do without being on the bay floor. So being able to leverage whatever resources you have, tying those online courses, but more so being able to give it right at their fingertips. Hey, you know what? Go in and review this quick 1001 fire behavior course before we go to it. And knowing that it's interactive, it's going to ask them questions. It's going to try and engage them. I know they're not the most fun courses, because nobody likes online PowerPoint learning, but being able to have those questions and know that they can ask you a question back. So knowing, yes, this is a Vector Solutions course, but knowing that at any given time, I can click on that button in the left-hand corner, and I can say, hey, I want to ask Chief King a question. I want to engage him. Hey, you're delivering this material, but how can I relate this back? This course is a little bit different than what our policy is. Can we clarify this? And knowing that it's not just some company that we partner with course that they're trying to push down us, but having some ownership, being able to take our courses from Vector Solutions, get the back to the basics out there, but still incorporate things like your policy to it. Being able to know that at any given time, any of our troops on the front line can pull up that question box and say, hey, Chief, I was reviewing this course. I was also reviewing our policy. I got some recommendations to maybe change in our policy based on what this course showed us. Maybe there's a new trend out there that we didn't know about. And so being able to meet that minimum compliance, covering those back to the basics, but keeping people engaged, asking them questions. Don't just assign the course out there, but when you rally the troops together to do that hands-on learning, what we're going to talk about next, ask them questions that are relevant to the course material. Know that they actually retain something out of it, rather than just going through and clicking next until it's over. What was important is, did they get a value out of that? And did they actually pay attention and complete the training? But we cover all the training, right? How do we know when they've completed it? Being able to go in and run reports. And for me, one of the biggest struggles was, as simple as generating reports was in Target Solutions. For me, what one of the challenges I had was knowing I had to go in there, and you'd be driving down the road, you'd be out on a call, you'd be doing something else, throughout the day and say, hey, I got to run that report, and then you'd forget about it. But knowing that you can come in and schedule those reports, you get that email notification. So you're not searching for this information, but it's at your fingertips. And that was always powerful to me because I didn't have to go searching around for things. If I was driving down the road and I thought about it, I knew that I was getting that email notification. I could quickly click that link, pull that report up, and it was at my fingertips. Same thing. If you're the training officer and the chief wants to have that report also, being able to share that report with those people right here within a few clicks, just to be able to be transparent within your organization. So, Robbie, one of your favorite topics is reports, and tell me how you were able to use the training management system to leverage those reports, both not only for completions, but who was overdue with them.
Yeah, so get enough air in me so I don't talk too much. For me, in my earlier part of my chief officer career, not having all the data really hindered me. Not being able to, when we look at a completions report, it's great to see that 100 people did it, but what about those 2 people that didn't do it? How do you find that in that list? So we would use a completions report for certain things like, hey, we reviewed an HR policy, and then we did the Vector Solutions course that goes along with it. We use that completions report to send up to HR to make sure that we were compliant and those kinds of things. The big reports that were important to me was this one right here. Who hasn't done something? We make that assignment, the expectation that it's done by a certain date and time and all the rest of those kinds of things. So being able to come here, pull this simple report, share it with the battalion chiefs, who then can whisper in the ears of all the captains, lieutenants to find out, hey, why aren't your people doing it? Is it truly because they've gone on too many calls, or is there just too many games of Xbox being completed in there? But I like this if you build out your categories, you're able to filter by battalion, shift, stations. It gives you lots of options to be able to help this out. Besides the easy for the dashboard for the supervisors to be able to see this kind of stuff. But I love being able to come back here. We can pull these reports. Is this a systemic issue? Is Matt never on the incomplete list and Robbie is? Maybe we need to whisper to that company officer to get that behavior changed, So for me, being able to have all of this data was fantastic. I could use that as part of a pivot table, which is super easy. And yes, we do have a course for learning how to do pivot tables, but pivot tables allowed me to really create those monthly dashboard views that was beneficial not only for up the chain of command, but more importantly, going down the chain of command, making sure that people can see that they've done those things. And once we highlight that it's being done, they're more apt to make sure that they get all their training done. For me, when I took over a shift, I didn't care about being the number 1 shift. I didn't want to be the number 3 shift. I wanted to stay 1 or 2, but I never wanted to be the 3rd shift of rankings of things. So being able to track and analyze training progresses with customizable and automated reports just makes it super simple. The one last report I was going to say, Matt, EMS was a really important fixture for us, and making sure getting that monthly report, making sure people's BLS, ACLS, PALS, all of those card things were never expired. So we could set that report to come up. The credentials sent those alerts. Hey, you're about to be a knucklehead. Go turn your stuff in because you didn't get it done to Chief King. But it also, you can have those reports. You can come back in. They're automated, and boom, they're just in my email. Oh, you know what? Hey, Matt, I see you didn't do ACLS with us this year. It's due. Where are you getting this done? You know, bringing that highlight in there. So being able to have all of that at my fingertips was really important to me in there as well. I could really spend all day talking about that, but we're getting short on time, so I'll quit talking. I wanted to see if you could talk more though with everyone about building skill forms as well, because that's really, it's great that we know something. In my head, can we get it to our fingertips, and can I prove that we did it together?
Definitely. You know, and it brings up this a great opportunity, because I love this little graphic on the right hand side of the screen. Is that when we're turning those gears, you can't be successful in the end result if you don't cover all of that pre-work. And I think back to, you know, some situations that I encountered where, you know, if you're not, whether it's first time training, we have a new skill that came out, a new way of doing something, we put a new hose load on the engine and we got to train on it, to all the way to you know, even down, you know, into performance improvement plans. And, you know, hey, mentoring, we have these issues. Instead of just issuing paperwork out, we identified that training need, and we're going to assign you this course, and we're going to follow up with some hands-on training, and we're going to make sure that you're successful for the future moving forward, and we don't have those reoccurrences happen. And so turning that gear to make sure that all of this flows together well. On the left-hand side there, you know, you see the learning retention rate. These are some great statistics that are out there in the industry. You know, we see, and it goes back to early on, we talked about the tell me, show me, and involve me, is you see the learning retention is very drastically low when we talk and read and hear lectures. You know, back to the PowerPoints and even some of the online learning, but being able to engage, taking some of that content, transposing it, sitting down at the kitchen table. Hey, Robbie, you know, I saw you completed that 1001 fire behavior course. So give me some feedback on it, and ask some candid questions that are relevant to that. You know what to expect. Just by society, by nature, we know that the learning retention is a little bit lower, but we still cover those items and transpose it into that visual aid, into those demonstrations. Let's talk about these things. Let's pull up some different discussions. Let's have some live demonstrations, being able to talk about it. You see that goes all the way up to 70% learning retention. And then lastly is that hands-on learning, that involved me, 95%, Robbie. It's amazing. And so that's where I say those gears, they slowly tweak skills. We can't just hold people accountable if we're not giving them the education, but we know that that's only a small part of being successful. And you know, one of my favorite quotes, Aristotle says, for the things we have to learn before we can do them, we learn by doing them. And it's so true when we talk about leveraging into our training plans. We spent a lot of time today, right, talking about the pre-course work, the custom activities, how to get data and analytics out of reports on the education piece that we're putting out there. But we know that's one part, that's one or two gears in that gearbox. And to be completely successful, we have to leverage skill evaluations, being able to measure the retention rates, the skill performance. Are you just throwing that pre-connect on the ground one time and calling it a day? Or are you doing it until you perfect that skill? Are you continually training on it until you know that you're not 100%, but you're 110%? And we have to be able to identify those things. It's not rocket science. And I don't say that to offend anybody or insult anybody, but we generally should be focused on doing some type of job performance requirement. Where are we getting those objectives, those skill performances at? Back to the basics, when we go to our basic firefighter academies, and what objectives and skills are they completing in those skill sheets from the curriculum? taking that and leveraging it into a digital platform. I don't know about you, Robbie, but one of the biggest struggles is taking that clipboard and walking out into the drill yard and they're spraying water, and first thing that happens, that paper's ruined and you can't read it or you can't write on it. And we all have technology at our fingertips now, whether it's an MDT in a rig, whether it's our mobile cell phone, a tablet, whatever it is, we have digital opportunities at our fingertips. So being able to take those pen and paper skill forms and reinventing them right into the digital. I didn't change anything. I just simply sat at a keyboard and typed, hey, I have the description of this evolution. In this case, that 1410 drill, we're throwing 2 lines on the ground, we're leading out from a hydrant, and we need to measure those benchmarks. We didn't come up with something new. We didn't change anything. We just took what's already out there in a pen and paper format or a scratch pad. We put it into a digital platform. Whether I'm standing there, like I said, in this case, in an office documenting this, or I'm on the drill yard in my mobile view, being able to pull that up and see that same information. Cool part about this one is, in the mobile app, we know we don't do anything alone. I'm not going out there and doing this 1410 drill by myself. We do it as a company, and we succeed as a company in teamwork. And with the mobile app, it allows you to record that training for multiple people. So you and I go out in the drill yard today. If I fail, we both failed. If I succeed, we both succeed. Being able to record that evolution live and being able not only to record it, but get some data back out of it, which we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. Another different idea and example is being able to throw that ground ladder. And you'll see here, there's quite a bit of information built into that skill form. But being able to take it and put that same information and include things like timers. Hey, do you have a certain expectation level that you want to meet through this process? Are we just going to do the skill? Are we worried about doing it not only successful, but efficiently as well? And being able to get data back out of the system regarding that. Take all of these skill evaluations and put them together. We all are familiar with different curriculum skill sheets, internal department skill sheets, but what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? Because we might not be at the training tower every day. We might not be with a training instructor. Maybe that's your company officer on a day-to-day, shift-to-shift basis. So are we capturing data aside from when we get together as a entire department on the training ground, or as a couple companies together on the training ground? The training officer comes out from the office and they're teaching a drill and doing those live skill evaluations. What are the company officers gathering from that? And being able to use daily observation reports, as you see here, to measure the success. So at the bottom there, you'll see the EMS skill performance and fire suppression. On a day-to-day basis, how are they performing? And being able to put rating scale type questions in. Whether you want to see it 1, 2, 3, 4, you want to see new, text format in this case to lay out what your expectation is. But being able to say, hey, how did they work as a team? What was their EMS skill? Are they struggling at IVs? Are they struggling at innovations? You know what? We went through ground ladders and they just weren't there. They need some more work on it. And being able to document and identify those needs so that we identify them early and often. We identify them in the training realm of things. We're not waiting until when the seconds matter and we find out they can't throw that ground ladder, or we find out they can't start that IV. And being able to capture that data, like I said, early and often. And then how does that look? We know we put all this into the system, right? But being able to pull that back out. So making sure the right people are reviewing this stuff. Is the company officer just signing it? And where does it go? Well, in this case, you know what? Hey, the candidate signs it, the training officer signs it, maybe the company officer, and we want to have that workflow signature going up the food chain. Now the deputy chief gets it. He has the last review of it. And as Chief Roberson there says, hey, you know what? I see he's successful. He's meeting expectations. He's lacking here. They're all transparent. We're not waiting till the end of the year when they have their end of the year evaluation and saying, hey, this guy sucked, or this guy was a rock star, or he was just mediocre. That transparency is there every day. and we don't just focus on one area. We're completing that circle. We're turning that gear every day to make sure we're successful with it. But as we talk about bringing it together, is not only just having those evaluations and being able to get some data back out of it, but being able to tie that directly to credentials as well on the training management side. So I have those evaluations. We're going to go out on the drill ground. We're going to, in this case, we're going to do a driver's training program, some professional development, and being able to list out all of those topics they're going to cover, being able to include things like a test through our test builder. But then, you know what? We're going to have that driving qualification test and that pumping qualification test, tying that all back into that credential. Hey, you have to have this pass in order to complete this credential. And now you have that ability to tie all three of those gears together that we talked about a few minutes ago, circling all of that together so that your entire training program isn't just there. When we talk about 2023 and beyond and being prepared, it's more than just being prepared and saying those words. It's truly wrapping your head around all of these items that you can do, you know, resources that are out there to be successful. Making sure maybe you don't have the resources. Maybe you are limited, budget cuts, smaller agencies. You don't have all the resources to have a training instructor dedicated to all this. Putting those tools in your company officer's hands. Maybe you don't always have the ability to have that dedicated instructor, but still having a resource and a tool to be able to identify those daily observations, those shift those skill evaluations, taking it to the next level to be successful, to be better than we are today. That's our goal. Tomorrow we need to be better than we are today. And this just outlines and shows the ability to hey, we're going to capture all of that data. Whether we're sending that course out to you, we're recording the training through a custom activity, we're attaching a test for you to sign off, and then at the end of the day with that credential, we're having that skill evaluation to sign off and say, yes, you're cleared to now pump this apparatus. Robbie, I've done a lot of talking, and your favorite topic, as we said before, is reports and analytics. So I want you to share with me, how easy is it for you to measure success? We talk about the training side, but how do you get that information out of the evaluation side? How do you know what you're doing? All this stuff we've talked about today, how do you know that you're truly being successful, and what are you doing with that information?
I love the question. And I think that really is a hard one for training officers, chief officers, company officers, to measure that success with an evaluation, whether it's a written or a practical exercise. I'm always going to lean towards the practical side of things. And so with the Vector Evaluations Plus, we have the opportunity to pull a detailed report. So here we're seeing some pass fails for steps in that skills evaluation. I always look at, to me, the real training officer is not the training chief. It's not the captain of training or the lieutenant of training. It's the company officers out there. So when we give these skills, could be a refresher, could be something new, and you get back out there, this is going to start seeing trends. So we see here that teamwork and leadership are okay. We see some failures in there. Being able to ask specific questions to get those results, to find out what's going on. Maybe somebody is not following the correct saying for RIT on the radio. We're seeing some failures in there. We need to go back in there and check to make sure that the training was adequate. We gave them the right information, and this kind of report allows you to see those things. When you're going back to your instructors or your evaluators, those kinds of people, you can come back and say, hey, I see we're having an issue with the teamwork and leadership. What do you think we can do to improve this? Is the material there? Are we not preparing them? Did we not show them enough examples? But you're able to ask very specific items. And to me, that really is the key part of things. But you know what? That same report we just showed, we can look at across the shifts, or we can dial it in to look at a shift. This one here, I absolutely love. So this one over here is daily observation reports. We're looking at things by category. I would have to put my glasses on, Matt, to be able to read that. But the thing I love about this kind of stuff is you're able to see the people that are doing great. If you need to, you can even expand that out and get even more detailed. So in the top one, we're seeing those broad strokes. Hey, you know what? The first one up there is doing good in the second column, but everybody else, we're still stuck in the groove. When we get deeper, we can see, oh, you know what? He's doing great in these two areas, but you know what? We have this one area we need to improve in. So being able to see this with a visual is so much easier on us to have the ability to see trends, to find those things. We're not meant to be able to go through 1,000 pages of skill sheets to find those trends. Putting it all together, having a tool to allow you to be able to grab that and consume it in a mindful way, that to me is spectacular as we look at it. And again, we have tremendous amount of pre-filled reports that are out there, so we can see how people are doing, and how many cones we're driving over, those kinds of areas. So being able to digitize all of these skills assessments to improve competency and documentation of that competency is really important for me. That now it's the biggest thing. I think we put so much time and energy in our training programs. How do we know that it's effective? Having reports like this is where we come in. But I see the illustrious Richard just came back in, so I know that's our cue to wrap this up. Matt, you did a great job sharing the information with you. I appreciate everybody having those chats that we had, and the people throwing in the public ones as well. We truly value what you say, and we truly value what you're doing. So if we can help you continue to take care of Mr. and Mrs. Smith out there, please let us know how we can do that. And if you have a question, please reach out with us. But thank you, Matt, and thank you, Richard.
No, thank you all, Matt, Robbie. This has been a great, presentation again, and looking back at how we planned our training out in our region, and how we collaborated, and it's looking to the future of building that plan, long term, and making sure that you have the right metrics in place to do those measurements is critical. Just I think a good story on why it's so important for documentation. As part of our EMS review on an annual basis, the state training officer comes in and looks at your, all your records, and did they have, X, Y, and Z. And one of the questions that came in one year was, well, we see your electronic version of records. Can you show us the paper backup? And we had that in place to document that. So, we've moved to, a very electronic world, but, always make sure you've got, everything to document that. And it comes in play for an incident for us was a fatality driving accident. And the investigation went to, well, we want to see the driving records. Well, we had documented everything from basic EVOC to advanced EVOC to driver certificate to annual cone tests, all was in our electronic system to be able to justify that. So you guys are right on point of, having all those pieces in place, but you got to have a training plan that says, hey, we do this training on an annual basis. So great job. I think these are great stepping stones, that we can build upon. And IFC definitely appreciates the collaboration and support from Vector. And we look forward to our next event. Matt and Robbie, I'll give you guys the last word here as we kind of wrap up. And thanks everyone for participating today.
I'm gonna leave it up to you, Matt. Thanks.
I appreciate it, Richard. It was always a pleasure to spend some time with you and get to see you again. And hopefully look forward to seeing you as well as Robbie at FRI this coming year. But for everybody, it was a pleasure to not only spend, for some of you, your lunch hour, for others, your morning or afternoon, but to be able to have this discussion and talk about what's most important is looking into the future and having a plan in place. Sometimes it's not the most perfect plan, but having a plan in place and giving you some tips, tricks, and tools at your fingertips to help you and your organizations be successful. And so with that, like I said, it was a pleasure to be here with all of you today. And, the last thing I always like to leave is make sure that everyone goes home and you all stay safe and take care of one another. And thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Just a quick reminder, some upcoming events with IFC, our Wildland Interface Conference, our Community Risk Reduction Conference, the HAZMAT Conference, FRI in August, and then Symposium in the Sun. And new that you'll be seeing shortly will be our Technology Conference. Second annual is going to be held again this year in Texas. So some great upcoming events for everyone to participate in the future. If this event will be recorded and available at the end, if you'd like to review it or share it with others, it'll be available on the IFC's platform for you to do that. And we would just like to thank everyone for participating today. And please go out and do great things. And every day is a training day. So thank you very much. And that concludes our event for today.